What does it really mean to see with the eyes of faith? Today we're going to dive into that very question through a pretty profound spiritual story. It's one that reveals not just one, but two totally essential ways of seeing, embodied by two incredible figures standing right at the edge of a new world.
So our story starts in the temple, and there you have these two spiritual giants. But they're more than just two elderly people. Think of them like two great mountains of faith, just standing there, patient, unmoving, waiting for a promise to finally come true.
And that brings us to the big question, right? They both looked at the very same child, but they saw through completely different eyes. Understanding their unique perspectives, well, that's the key to unlocking the full, beautiful picture of what faith is all about.
So let's meet these two sentinels, Simeon and Anna. We're going to look at them not just as historical figures, but as these powerful symbols. They represent two really distinct paths of faith that, in the end, lead to the exact same breathtaking vision. Okay, first things first, let's explore why they waited for so long. Because the reason behind their long vigil in the temple, it actually reveals a huge difference in their spiritual journeys. Just think about this contrast for a second. Simeon's wait, it wasn't entirely his choice. He was literally compelled by a divine decree. A direct promise from God was holding him in this world. He could not die until he saw what he was promised. And this difference reveals two fundamental sides of faith. Simeon, he's a picture of God's faithfulness, a soul being pursued and held onto by divine grace. Anna, though, she embodies humanity's faithfulness. Nobody made her stay. She chose devotion. She chose to wait. She represents a soul that actively holds on to God. So this difference in why they were there also shaped their own internal struggles. Waiting for years is never easy, and their personal battles were as different as the paths they were on. For Simeon, this scholar, the struggle was all in his mind. He was wrestling with these huge theological paradoxes, trying to make sense of the prophecies. It was a battle of the intellect. But for Anna, a widow from a very young age, the struggle was in her heart. It was a battle against loneliness, sorrow, and just the ache of personal loss. So when they finally held the Christ child, the peace each of them found was perfectly tailored to their struggle. For Simeon, it was the ultimate answer to all his questions. Christ was the truth that finally let his mind rest. For Anna, it was this deep, profound comfort for her heart. He was the true bridegroom, the life that filled all that emptiness. Okay, so what happened after their long wait was over? Well, their reactions were incredibly different, and they beautifully symbolize the end of one era and the beginning of a brand new one. Simeon's reaction was like a serene sunset. He saw the Messiah, and that was it. His life's purpose was fulfilled. He was ready to rest. His story was about completion. Anna's reaction, though? Whoa. It was a brilliant sunrise. Seeing the child wasn't the end for her. It was the explosive start of a new mission. To get out there and tell everyone. And this is what makes their roles so powerful. Simeon represents the Old Testament, the law and the prophets, finding its ultimate fulfillment, ready to pass the torch. Anna, on the other hand, represents the dawn of the new, the birth of the church, just bursting with the energy of evangelism and getting to work. So we have these two paths that seem like total opposites, compelled versus chosen, mind versus heart, sunset versus sunrise. But what if they aren't contradictory? What if they are actually two halves of one single complete vision? And this brings us right to the heart of our whole reflection today. This idea that to truly see Christ, you can't just rely on one perspective. You need two eyes. So, the first is the eye of Simeon. This is a faith built on the truth of God's promises, on scripture, on doctrine, on understanding. It's the believing mind. And the second is the eye of Anna, a love built on personal devotion, on worship, prayer, and service. It's the loving heart. And if you have one without the other, you just get a flat, incomplete picture. You see, a healthy, balanced, spiritual life really needs both. It needs a mind that can grasp the truth and a heart that can give love. You need the conviction of Simeon and the devotion of Anna, living together inside one soul.
And all of this brings us back to Simeon's famous words, because with this unified vision, we can now understand his prayer not just as a simple request, but as one of the most profound spiritual statements ever spoken. Let your servant depart in peace. It's a profound prayer that has just echoed through the centuries, touching countless hearts. But what does it really mean to find that kind of ultimate peace?
Now, this is the key to the whole thing. Simeon's prayer is not one of resignation. It's not a desire for death. It is the prayer of a soul that has finally become whole. It's the deep, profound peace that only comes when the mind's questions are answered by truth and the heart's longings are met by life. It is ultimately the prayer of someone who is finally seeing with both eyes.